Hello everyone, I'm your hostess with the mostest, 8-Second Gaming, and in today's video, we are going to be talking about the 3 best heroes to climb in Season 4 from each different role. This is going to be focused mainly on solo carry because let's be honest guys, sometimes your teammates, they just don't want to cooperate. But don't worry because we have you guys covered.
Oh hey, didn't see you guys there. Are you guys tired of being tired? Feeling like you're missing your shots because you're just not fully awake while you're gaming? If that's the case, then you guys need to check out our new sponsor, Sneak. Sneak is an energy drink company with 15 amazing flavors. They've got no artificial flavors or coloring, they've got no sugar, they've got no crash, even though they have 150 milligrams of caffeine per serving, all to give you an edge while you're gaming. Sneak was nice enough to send me a few flavors to try out myself, and I gotta be honest guys, I love them. They really help me have that mental awareness to pull off clutch plays when it comes down to it. But if you guys are on the fence about trying this because you're like me, you have commitment issues, you don't really know if you want to go for a full tub, Sneak has you covered. They have a starter pack which includes 9 flavors and also a free shaker cup. And yes, those 9 flavors can be mixed and matched to whichever ones you think sound the best. So click the link in the description, grab yourself a starter pack, and really start to experience this today.
Now with that out of the way, let's hop back into things, and I do want to start off quickly by saying that we have tried to create multiple different hero picks that can differ in skill. So it doesn't matter if you're in Bronze or Grandmaster because one-tricking one of these heroes will be beneficial to you. But to start off, let's talk about the supports. And the 3 that we have here are Baptiste, Ana, and Zenyatta. And I do want to give an honorable mention to Kiriko because Kiriko is a very good carry pick, though her carry potential does come with an understanding of how to maintain line of sight with your team to heal them. And you also have to be able to time off angles to potentially assassinate enemy flankers while they do try to do something like that. They are trying to catch you guys off guard, but you want to counter that and be able to catch them off guard. And on top of that, you do need to have somewhat decent aim in order to catch a quick double dink onto oblivious enemy snipers or supports if they're out of position. Pulling this off is not easy, and she's not a very beginner friendly hero, otherwise it would easily make her a top 3 carry pick, especially since she is so strong right now. But actually finding the timing in order to pull this off can be extremely difficult even for the best Kiriko players in the world, so that is why she's just an honorable mention. But now let's move back into the actual top 3, and we gotta talk about Baptiste first, because right now he is the absolute best carry pick. When you have that extra DPS on your team who can work well with basically any team comp and then also deal with pharmacy by himself, heal your team solo, and keep you alive for when you need to make a game deciding play with 2 abilities that are absolute banger lifesavers, there is basically no better option when it comes to 1v5ing the entire game. Admittedly though, he is one of the hardest supports to play without a doubt, especially if you're going for a high risk, high reward playstyle on him. But if you are looking to take on that challenge, you think that you're built different, then I can absolutely promise you, you will reap the rewards from mastering this pick. But now next up we have Ana, and she is absolutely amazing also, but she is somewhat situational. On Baptiste, it can be somewhat hard to take a full HP target down to 0 if the enemies run certain support lineups. If they're running something like an Ana Brig or even something random like a Baptiste Moira, it is a lot of healing AoE or single target. And in these situations, you're going to want to go Ana. Your nade is an absolute game changer. I cannot stress this enough. If you are able to land an anti onto a target that cannot get rid of it, then you could just call your team and they should die. And let's not forget the longest stun in the game you have in your back pocket, which can also single-handedly win team fights. And you also have an ultimate that fully cures one of your instinct teammates and gives them 50% damage bonus while giving them 50% damage reduction as well. With an entire kit able to fully carry, it's hard to go wrong. And the last for supports on this list is Zenyatta. Now I know what you might be thinking. Zen doesn't work with a lot of heroes, and his healing is bad and he can't help himself out too well. And while that is true, there's not a lot to save the enemy tank from being perma-discorded. Zen is one of the easiest supports to carry on when you simply learn to stay alive and have line of sight on the enemy tank. So they constantly take extra damage from your team, and believe me, it is absolutely infuriating. And on top of that, your ultimate is an absolute game-changing ability and absolutely necessary, if not Lucio, to learn this pick for the ultimate alone. Now don't let that take away from the fact that you are basically made for flanking. Look at his feet, they float. The enemies will not hear you, and you will not believe the amount of times you will get away with this simply being on a flank. But that covers our supports. Let's hop into tanks, and the 3 that we have here are Ramatra, D.Va, and Monkey. And of course, we do have to give our honorable mentions here as well, and these go to Zarya and Orisa. Both could easily make this list, but Orisa isn't there because she fills the same role as Ramattra, simply carrying in a different way, being that she has single target kill pressure, and Zarya not being in the top 3 for a reason that D.Va is. She simply is barely ever meta, and because Zarya is barely ever meta and is countered by most tanks such as Ramattra and Monkey, she simply can't be top 3. Now she does have some insane damage output potential, but the only tank that she really hard counters is D.Va, and D.Va doesn't really have bad matchups other than her. But again, let's talk about the actual tanks on this list now, and up first we have Ramattra. Now again, I really do not think this pick is unwarranted. You will kill players in under 2 seconds every shift. The only hard part is remembering to use your shield and get close before moving in to start beating the brakes off them. This pick also has very little counters, and the ones that do don't really work the best either. Take Orisa for example, who is meant to be the hardest Ramattra counter in the game. All she can really do is use her spear and spin to move her around, but past that her kill threat is generally minimal on you, and she can't really go for your team, cause if she ignores you, you ignore her, and then you're able to just punch the enemies into the floor. And I also should feel like I mentioned that there is a game winning ult in any overtime scenario. I will personally guarantee a 20% increased win rate on King of the Hill maps on this pick when played correctly. The ultimate will single-handedly win you last fights. Now let's move into D.Va though, and this pick might seem a little bit odd, but you'll have to hear it out. D.Va is my personal go-to pick when I just can't get that value I want out of the other 2 picks. She is very hard to counter, if counterable at all, the only real one being Zarya from the tank category, and Zarya is also countered by most other tanks in the category. Plus D.Va has some insane peeling potential for when your team just isn't going back when you tell them to, and also your damage is no joke. You usually don't want to be straying from staring at the enemy tank on this pick. It is quite important to almost be on them the entire time, since you will generally do more damage to them than they do to you, but if you learn to balance your aggression and stay more on the defensive side, you will certainly carry, and you will also see value from this pick. But now let's move into number 3 on this list, and that is going to be the Monkster. This is by far one of the hardest tanks to master in the game. Knowing if you should jump to be more aggressive or to walk in and jump out, it can be pretty difficult. But the thing to remember on Monkey is he is map dependent and also matchup dependent. The main thing you should remember in the tank role is it is very swappy. Let's say you start on Ramattra, they go Orisa, Monkey is a good pick into that. If you swap to him, they may swap to D.Va, then you want to do is go back to Ramattra. Point being, if you have Monkey in your pool of heroes to play, or even fully one-trick him, you will find a lot of success in your play. He counters a lot of tanks like Zarya and Orisa simply because he can ignore them and abuse their low mobility. And tanks that do counter him, such as D.Va, do not completely shut him down. I put Monkey on this list because if you are willing to put the time in to learn him, or maybe you already have some mechanics on him, and you're able to build up your ult well while playing him, you will be able to fully carry each fight, because with his ult, he is an absolute machine. I mean, you can completely change the positioning of each individual enemy, and even put people off the map, or maybe even put them into your team, or flat out kill them yourself if you're able to juggle them properly. And that is why he makes the list. But now we can move into the people that actually matter on the team, because let's be real, supports and tanks, lame. DPS, it's where it's at. The 3 that we have here are Ashe, Genji, and Cassidy. But just in case you guys thought I wasn't going to do any honorable mentions, I've actually got 3 for you. Those being Widow, Echo, and Pharah. Now a good Widow can certainly create constant 4v5 situations for your team, but the difficulty in doing so, especially when your team can really just refuse to cooperate and help you hold the angles that you need in order to pull this off, is the main reason she is not in the top 3 for me. As well as Echo and Pharah, which I classify to be in the same boat. So in order to get the most value out of those 2 picks, you really do need a Mercy. If you don't have one, the strengths become very different. Not that they aren't playable without it, it's just that it's a completely different playstyle and less of a carry pick. But alright, let's move into the actual top 3, and to start off with, we have to talk about Ashe, because she has what is likely to be the best carry ult out of the DPS, the best time to kill damage that isn't a complete one-shot out of the DPS, and she also has a get the hell off me button. She is able to just completely counter any enemy diving her because she can just click one button and you're gone. I don't think it's hard to see why Ashe makes the #1 spot. Your ult is just simply a tank controlling space with huge kill pressure, but it's actually not usually the ult that gets you the kills. It's where the ult makes the enemies go, as well as the AoE damage from Dynamite. Ashe is is an amazing pick with or without a Mercy, and that is why she's going at the top of this list. But at number 2, we have to have Genji. He can be quite difficult, but his mobility, kill threat, and skill ceiling allow him to be one of the best carry picks on the DPS lineup. When choosing this pick, you must think, why not Tracer? Well, on Tracer, it is actually significantly harder to find a 1-clip. It's actually pretty hard to full 100 to 0 an enemy that isn't completely AFK, and you also don't really have a carry ult. But Genji can actually one-shot people without his ult quite well, and if your team isn't being completely useless and call who is low, simply look in their general direction and dash to finish them off. And as well I mentioned before, your ult is probably one of the best carry ults in the game, especially when combined with nano or a damage boost, but even without one, it does pack an insane punch that has to be respected. And the last pick goes to Cassidy. Now you may be thinking, why would I go Cassidy? Widow has more range, Ashe has more range, Soldier is faster, and 2 of those have carry ults, whereas Cassidy, well, his ult basically just makes you a practice range bot. And although all of that is true, and I do admit his ult can be rather useless, he still needs to be respected as the most consistent damage output on the DPS lineup. Regardless of who you play against or what you have on your team, he has insanely consistent damage, more so than Soldier, as on him you must shoot for many seconds and cannot juggle behind a wall. But as Cassidy, you can look for flanks and wins the majority of 1v1s, even against some tanks. And into Widow, you may have a hard time, but into Ashe, it's actually not so bad, as the damage fall off allows him to put out good damage from afar. Now overall, I do think it is important to remember that Overwatch is a team game, and although this list is created to help free when your team forgets that, remember that these picks are going to be so much better when played as a team, and that's why they're all the best picks to rank up. But let me know what you think is the best carry pick in the comments down below. And if you guys want to stay up to date with the latest and greatest Overwatch tips, tricks, and news, don't forget to smash the like, subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Once again, I made Second Gaming, and I'll see you guys in the next one.